Hey, everybody. I have a very special treat for you today. Um, we're going to talk about identity shift with my friend uh, Anthony Trucks, who is a former NFL player, but also just a great coach. So, hello, New Zealand, Chile. Tell me where you're from. I'm so excited. All of you are going to be with us today. So, for those of you on TikTok, we just went over 100,000 viewers. One of our videos has nearly 7 million views. Paris, Lebanon, Cincinnati, New Jersey, Encinitas, Sydney, Australia. So excited. Oh, Anthony's here and unable to join. Oh no. Try that again, Anthony. This technology has just gotten the best of me sometimes. Um, Try that again. Send invites. Requests. There we go. We'll get this. Pretty soon I'm going to do live chat. Ah, there he is.
Hey, I made it in, man. How are you doing?
Hello, my friend.
How are you?
I am spectacular. Let me see if I can turn you
You
up
look good.
a little bit. I feel good. There we go.
It's been a little while. I'm actually here with Trent at his mastermind. I think he was just out in the office a little bit ago, right?
He was.
Yeah,
We did scan my brain. We should probably do one with you again.
I'm ready,
Uh,
man. Yeah, I feel good, but I'd like to see what's going on up there.
how long's it been since our first
Oh,
scan?
that was probably in 2000. I'm gonna go ahead and say probably like 2015, 16-ish. It's been a while. It's actually been a while, but it was cool to be able to see it just 3 months. What was the progression of my brain from the holes? It still takes me back to this day as when we looked at it, and you're like, oh, you had some trauma as a kid, huh? And I was like, oh, how'd you know that? And just by looking at the skin. So yeah, we could definitely go do it again.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. So you have a new book coming out
I do.
tomorrow.
It is tomorrow, man. I got a copy right here. Yes, this is the new book, man. It's one of those, like, it's like putting another kid, like my fourth child, into the world. It's fun to see it all kind of come to life. But I do. It's on identity, which is it's one of those things where, like, in life, we all have some weird things we happen across that we get to find our unique parts of us that we have as a skill set we can gift the world with, and understanding and not just identity, but how to navigate it and shift it became this weird thing I realized I do really well. It helps people. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna put it into a book and make it clear for people to get it and also do it.
And does it come out of your identity shift from being a professional football player into a new world? Tell me about it.
Yeah, what's funny is it comes from multiple shifts. So I think that's kind of why it's my weird connection. Is I had shifts as a kid being given away at 3 years old, and then I grew up in an all-white, really poor family, and I wasn't adopted till I was 14. So I had like a really weird sense of like, who am I? Big questions. And then I got to the point of playing football for the first time and had to find myself there. I went from being really bad to being really good and got a college scholarship. And then, like, now I'm the college athlete. And then I had a high school sweetheart, I had a kid. So now I'm the college athlete with a kid. And then I meet my real biological dad. So now I have this another dad. So all these different shifts of my identity. Then I do play in the NFL, lose the career to an injury, and that's a massive crisis. Which anytime you've been doing something for a long period of time and you could no longer do it, you start to feel like find this question that seeps in of like, who am I without that thing? And it gets heavy. And so, like, I was in a dark place, man. I was suicidal, and I didn't have anything. My marriage fell apart. We had a couple more kids. I wasn't a good dad. Body was all just not in great shape because everything fell to a very deep bottom, and I had to find a way to get out of the hole. And in getting out of the hole, I kind of went back to some things I'd done before, but unintentionally, and gave it a proactive push. I was like, how, what if I try to do these things in this manner? And lo and behold, it got me out of the hole. And I was like, what if I try to go from like being like okay to like great? What does it look like to apply similar processes? And so I did it. And next thing I know, like I get my marriage back together after 3 years divorced, have an amazing family. I'm in good shape. I have a business where I get to go and teach people this concept. And so I've done some cool things. And so it started with me, but then I said, what if I give this to people? What if I say, hey, you need some help? Try this in this area of those who want to elevate their life. And the process worked amazingly. So people have lost weight, made great money, fixed marriages, all by understanding who they are at the core, beyond mindset, everything, but like, who am I as a human? And that's what I put into the book. It's the concept of understanding it, but then also like, how do you do it? And so it came from my life and then giving it to other people's lives as well.
It's awesome. So we need help.
Mm.
Tana says hi.
Hey, Tasha, hey, we did
And
a live together too. She's awesome.
oh, well, when you do the live with her, Chloe, our 18-year-old,
Hmm.
just went off to college.
Ooh, I'll be there next year.
And Tana said she will be fun again soon. It's hard for her in
Yeah.
part because her identity
Hmm.
is going to shift from
It is.
being Chloe's mom. I mean, she'll
Yeah.
always be Chloe's mom, but from sort of the day-to-day mothering thing
Hmm.
to sort of watching her from afar.
Yeah.
And she's been planning on it for a few years, but it's just a week or so, and
Yeah.
it's really hard. How would identity shift help someone like her?
It would help her mentally. So we have people that, they do the empty nest thing. Kids go to college. I'll have a kid, and my oldest son's going off to college next year, so I'll be in the same boat. It happens if you leave the military, or if you choose to leave your career for a different career, or you open a business or sell the business. It's that kind of bubble of like, who am I? And this is the way I explain it. When you have a moment like that, we've built this house we live in, this house of who we are, and we feel comfortable there. Everything's great. But then at a certain point, we realize like, oh, this house is changing, or it's being torn down, and we're going to end up being homeless. And that thought of like homeless isn't really homeless, but it's a sense of like, I don't know where I get to live in a space of confidence. And so one of the most important pieces is realizing you built the first house. Now you have to build the next house so you don't end up homeless. Conceptually, it's like, how do I create this thing? So it's going to be a shift into the same Tana, but it's going to be a different house she lives in. It's going to be the great mom at a distance, the one that travels, shows up in different ways, serves in an area. Because we as humans, we are happiest in motion. You've got to be doing something to find joy, I've found. Now, it's not for everybody, but for me, like, I love being in the flow of doing like this, hanging out with a cool guy. Like, this is me happy, right? And if you can't do that and you feel like you have nowhere to go, then you just kind of get, sedentary, and you get kind of your energy gets stifled. So the idea is we got to get Tana to build a new house and proactively think about what kind of walls we want, what kind of foundation, what kind of, paint. Like, you think about, what does that new identity look like? How do I show up so I can be happy in motion again? And the old house I left, not that I hate that house, or I'm like, but I'm aware of it, and I have the great memories from that home, but I'm living in a different place.
I love that. That's so important. I love Ariana Grande's song "Thank You Next," and
Hmm.
it's a
Yeah.
fun song about all of
Yeah.
her past boyfriends, but it's really about gratitude for what's happened and then looking forward.
Yeah.
And it's, I think it's the three words of mental health: thank you,
Hmm.
gratitude, and
Yeah.
then turn your head to look forward rather than, I often think of depression as you're in the past with regret,
Hmm.
where anxiety, you're in the future with fear. And so uh, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you, man. I'm excited too. It's seriously, it's been a blast to watch those who have read the book come back and like have it dog-eared and highlighted, because where I didn't want to just talk, like, right now we're talking concept, right, which is great. There's actually a cool concept I use based on a computer and phones, because we all use these nowadays. But then I said, like, I really want to give people the aspects of like, when we coach and teach corporations and individuals at any level of this system, I was like, I want to make sure people know how to do it. So what's great about it is we break down the exact steps of how to make this shift. Because I think that's the one thing that sometimes people leave out is like, here's this cool idea, here's a cool concept, and then like, all right, go figure it out on your own. I was like, no, 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 no. We're going to make sure you get it, and then I'm going to show you how to do it so you can actually apply this to your life to do anything you want. And it's not always about going from a place of like, life is horrible to like, okay, I'm okay. You can also apply it in the sense of like, hey, life is good, but how do I make it amazing? How do I make it great? What kind of shift must I make? Because I realize this is, the identity has to match the dream, or the dream doesn't get realized. So if I have this vision of what I want, if I am not yet the person to handle that, either I'll never achieve it or I'll get it and lose it. So when you get those two to match, it's a whole beautiful space.
And so people are getting clarity on what they want and then matching their behavior over time to make that happen.
It's a great way of simplifying it, but there's a little bit of stuff. So the way the method is designed, which is beautiful, is I think a lot of us go towards the level of like, I'm just going to start doing things. Because we all know that doing something brings more, but we're not really clear on what we've got to do. So the problem is we don't quite look at ourselves in a way that clarifies our specific limiting areas. And so we don't see ourselves. So it's the statement I love. It's hard to see the label when you're inside the jar. So when I'm sitting here living my life, I'm unaware of what I'm doing to keep myself out of the space I want to get to. And so what we first do is get you clear on like, how are you being seen and how are you showing up in the world? Then we craft the identity that has what you want. Because there's a misconstrued perspective of like, I just have to do certain things and then I'll have this thing. But the reality is it happens where you have to be a person to have it. Because in our world nowadays, I'm sure you know, you have that shelf of stuff behind you. There are probably a lot of people who have bought your information, but have never consumed it. We have what I call an epidemic.
So frustrating.
Right? It is. You got all this work, it's going to be great. But I call it shelf esteem. I got this stuff, and right? And what I found is there's people that will never consume it. Then the other people that do consume it. It's usually a smaller percent, let's say 7 or 10%. They'll consume it. But then you really only have like 3%, 1 to 3 that actually apply it. And what I found is those are the special people because a lot of us know a lot of great stuff. And we get to a moment in life where we know we want to accomplish, the dream is clear and it's there, but then a special moment happens. It's, all right, I know what to do, but it's been a long day. I'm kind of tired. I want to watch this TV show. My wife and I have been fighting, whatever it is. They make these great excuses to then not take the next step. And so what I ask people is, hey, tell me this, the person who has this dream that you want most, would they make these same excuses right now? And it's a simple question that leans a lot into like, ooh, so it's not what I know, it's who I am with what I know. And so when we go through the process of making a shift, you clarify what your limiting factors are. You create a process to get yourself to close that gap. And you start crafting who you want to be that has all the things you want to have.
As a professional athlete, I've been blessed to treat a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
This shift into a new life is so hard for many of them.
Yeah.
Do you have some practical steps that would be useful for them?
Yeah.
And now I could send them to your book, which would be great.
Yeah. That's so I was that guy, man. And we all have that. Well, I may be talking about an athlete. We talked about tennis and had that moment where, your daughter goes off and then it's going to be this, oh, what do I do with this? Or the person who retires like, oh, what do I do with this life? So just realize it's not tucked to just athletes. It's every human being on this planet. But here's the first thing we it's seen this way. It's not a negative thing because for example, your identity of who you are as the brain warrior, you show up and do different things that other people wouldn't do. And it dials you in. You get this amazing people that they follow you because they hear your heart and soul through what you do. So which means you're not going to live out of congruence there. You're going to eat right, take care of your body. You're doing it's who you are, right? So the thing is, when athletes come out, we have this identity of like, I'm a great guy. I'm phenomenal with this. You can't, right? And no one gets to see the chinks in my armor. Therefore, I never give myself permission to improve upon it. So what I give people as the first piece is give yourself grace and give yourself the ability to drop the ego for a minute and give yourself permission to improve in the area that if you don't admit needs help will pervade into your life over and over. It'll go ongoing for years. You'll be the same person, doing the same things, having the same issues. So the first step is find people who will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Sit with them. And when you hear it, don't get mad, don't get angry, embrace and understand this is now a gift of like, okay, I can work on this. The next thing is you don't have to be committed as an identity to the outcome, commit to the effort. So what I mean by that is too many people go, well, I'm not, maybe I'm not a speaker right now. So I can't do that. And I gotta sit back like, no. Don't commit to being the best speaker in the world right now. Commit to the effort of what it takes, as opposed to saying, I'm a great speaker. Say, you know what? I'm getting up every day doing what I can to get better as a speaker. As you want to be a great CEO of a company, I may not be the greatest yet, but I'm committed to doing what it takes to be that great CEO. And if you identify with the efforts, you get to that outcome you desire. So give yourself permission, identify with the efforts to improve upon it, and you'd find that that actually becomes a much smoother and more fulfilling journey to that place you're trying to get.
You know, I'm just thinking about what I often tell parents is don't tell kids they're smart. Tell them they work hard and
Yeah,
praise them for working hard. And all professional athletes worked hard.
yeah,
Right? I mean, you can have talent, but if you don't actualize it, you won't become a professional athlete.
true.
And so being committed to the effort, so have a sense of where you want to go
Mhm.
next, and then being committed to the effort rather than the outcome
Yeah.
just is so smart. I like that
Yeah, because if not,
so
then every
much.
day you wake up and realize how far you are from where you want to be, and it's debilitating. Because the only measurement of happy is if I got there or not. And if you didn't get there, it's like walking, it's like hiking a mountain to the peak, and you're only looking at the peak, and you never see anything else. And every step you're like, oh, I'm not there yet. Or you say, man, it's beautiful flowers and amazing grass. Look at these hummingbirds, and you enjoy it. And after a while, the steps become fun, and then oh, look at this, I'm on the top of the mountain.
Yeah, no, I love that. That is just so helpful. What else have you found to be helpful in helping people shift their identity?
Realizing that the most we all say this, but no one thinks about this, but the most constant thing is change, and it's okay to change. And here's the one thing: people think that if I make a shift, I lose all the things that I've worked for, and the reality is you don't. You still retain all the great lessons, the great heart, the great information. So you actually go into another stage, vastly far beyond square one. So as Tana goes into this next stage of parenting, it's not I'm starting over as a mom. No, it's like, you know what? I'm going into this next stage of my life with a backpack full of tools and experiences and connections and loved ones that are going to help aid the next stage amazingly. And so if I just lean on that, it gets less scary to pursue the next thing because I'm not unable to do it with information. I have everything I need. I just have to apply it differently.
The pandemic, in so many ways, changed people's identity
Hmm.
and pitted us against each other. You know, as a psychiatrist, I've been a psychiatrist almost 40 years. I've
Yeah.
been through 10 presidential elections. I've
Wow.
never seen one that split families
Hmm.
like this last one.
Yeah.
And so people's identity, in a sense, became more rigid. You
Yeah.
know, I'm red or I'm blue or um, you know, I get vaccinated, I don't get vaccinated. There has to be some flexibility
Has
to
to.
identity in
Yeah.
order. You know, one of the things I tell my patients over and over again is you have no influence without connection.
Hmm.
That influence requires connection. So, how can you use some of these principles to help people be a little more flexible?
Yeah, well, I think the cool thing is you can't make everybody happy. It's the one piece of it. So that which is great. It might have been Nick Saban. He says, if you want to be a leader, it was sorry, he said, if you want to please everybody, don't be a leader. Go sell ice cream. That's the first thing. So it's like realize everybody's not going to be happy, and that's okay, right? You find your people. Here's the other thing that I've noticed. For me, as I progress in like different stages of life and I look at things, like the people that are around me, like it's okay to not be accepted. It's okay to change my mind. It's really a thing where like, I gotta be at this level, like this pandemic going on. I think people feel like they have to be right and they can't be wrong and you have to be, but you don't. You have to set your own scale. And what I mean by this is we adopt this world scale that is always moving. It's never anchored. And so when people say I'm blue or I'm red, it's like you now have to adopt everything that is in line with, or you're out of identity. That's a problem because I think that you can't be all things. It's not that simple. But if I say, hey, here's Anthony's scale. I love on people. I care about humans. I'm in right now. Dave, I'm in season of dad. I have twins that are 12. I have a 16-year-old, and I'm focused on that. That's the priority. Like I don't take trips certain times. I don't miss football games. Other people would say, oh, it's the prime time to build the business. I'm like, yeah, but what I'd have to do would take me out of season of dad. If I borrowed the world scale, I'd be incongruent with me. I'd be out of alignment. So I just make Anthony's scale. So I tell people, you got to figure out in this world we live in now, what is great for you? What will 100% make you happy to where it's anchored and solved and you can see it? And then if you do something and you celebrate it, the world can't poke holes. You can stay in a positive emotion. You can stay happy and joyous and progress into whatever you choose. So for me, man, with this whole thing going on, it's like, people just need to go home and figure out what they genuinely want for themselves and then be okay realizing not everybody's going to be in line with it and you can still love them.
So we have a question we have lots of questions, but I love this one. Having a hard time with 50. So I suspect turning 50. It's clearly an identity shift, right? And it can be when you turn 18, although most people are happy about that one. Or 30 or 40 or 50. I just turned 67 and I'm sort of having the best time of my life.
I want to be like you when I grow
up. But 50 is a big number. How do you help people with that?
And so we do have clients. It's funny. That's like the demographic we work with. Because at that point, you're at that, you're looking at that junior, senior years of life. You've gone through the freshman year, like, oh, it's all fun. And you're like, oh, I'm going to settle down. Then you do a new thing in your junior year. Now you're like, you know what? Senior year, I'm going to do something. I think the cool thing is, I think we get older. What I find out, and I'm not at 50 yet, but what I find is we want to be relevant to an extent, especially in this heavily social media world. I want to make sure I'm tied to the cool things, right? But what I find is some of the most impactful and fun things is to be engaged with great humans that I feel get me and that I get. Because at that point, like, you're not trying to please people that you know don't matter. Like, we're past the facade of like a bunch of friends looking how cool I am. But the clients I work with, we get to that level. A lot of it's saying, all right, as we progress in, what are the things that I could do that I love to do that people love that I do? Sweet space. Because there's something there when we start going through all the sampling of life, we find there's something I love to do. And sometimes we didn't do it most of our life. It was a hobby at some point. It was just this thing. But when you can settle in and get, I really like making, I don't know, an amazing garden. I want to have a green thumb. Great, let's do that. Then how can I do it in a way that allows me to feel like I'm valuable to the world, to where people love that I do it? Because I think that's something that's beautiful for anybody. But you need to have some years under your belt to really find that thing that sets you apart, because then you don't have the questioning of, should I be doing something else? And that's a weird place to be too. So I find if you can find that thing that maybe people look at you and go, you're incredible at this. Can you do more of this? And you go, I never thought of it, but actually now think of it and do it. When you can pair those two things up and go through a shift to actually make it become who you are to do that, you're in a sweet spot. So if it's, I don't know, maybe you want to paint, go paint. You want to ride horses, ride horses. But don't do it as like, I'm trying it. Go and say, I want to be an equestrian. I want to be an artist, and lean in that direction and find ways to connect with people that love the things you're doing.
I love that. I remember when I decided to be a psychiatrist a long time ago, I also loved eyes and ophthalmology, and ophthalmologists made so much more money, but I couldn't read it at night for fun, where psychology and psychiatry, I could read all the time. And so I did what I loved, and it just, I never really felt like I worked, because I love what I do. So if people can find what they love, it has its own intrinsic dopamine, and you just feel happy a lot.
Yeah, and if you're not worried about people's viewpoints, it just moves smooth.
Well, and it's, I have a rule I teach my patients called the 18-40-60 rule that says when you're 18, you worry about what everybody's thinking of you. Mm-hmm. And when you're 40, you don't give a damn what anybody thinks about you. And when you're 60, you realize nobody's been thinking about you at all. People spend their days worrying and thinking about themselves, not you. So what do you want to do? What pleases you? That really has helped so many of my patients. How can people find out more about you and your work? I know Identity Shift comes out tomorrow. It's on Amazon, and I'm sure anywhere great books are sold. Oh, come say hi to Anthony.
It's out of here.
We've been talking about you.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Because his new book is Identity Shift, which is what you're doing.
So I'm not going to come say hi to Anthony.
You guys are going to do a live. She's going to do a live with Anthony as well.
Awesome.
Please therapy
so
for her.
yeah, well, I'll send you guys a book if you don't have one yet. But anybody else in the world, if you guys go to identityshiftbook.com and you grab a copy of the book, you bring the receipt back, and then we'll actually give you the audio book, the workbook, and the digital book. And the workbook's beautiful because it's you know what it is. It's increasing cognitive rigor. I want you to take this information, learn it, but if you go through the process of actually doing some of the work behind it, it locks it in. Because this is stuff that's not, it should not be a bunch of info I have to learn. It should be, how do I operate a little bit differently for the things that I already know become of more use and become real in my life, and then I can actually change my life the way I've been planning. But identityshiftbook.com, and if you use the code book bonus, that's what we'll call it, book bonus. You just go there, pop it in, and it all comes free to your inbox tomorrow.
I love that. So thank you so much. It's great to see you. I hope I get to see your braids sometime soon.
Yeah, I'm going to come back down there, man. I love the area. You guys down there in the beautiful sunny and beach area, man, you can't beat that. I'm up here right now in Napa with Brendan and a whole bunch of people for his cool mastermind we're at.
Well, give him a hug for me.
That I will, most definitely.
All right, my friend. Take
All
care.
right, thank you. Take care, everybody.
Bye,
Take care,
everybody.
Dale. Thank you.